Have you ever experienced a moment in your life where everything you thought you knew just crumbled, leaving you standing in a strange, quiet void? A few years back, I went through something like that. I'd been on this intense spiritual journey, diving deep into meditation, reading every self-help book I could get my hands on, and chasing that big aha moment people talk about when you finally wake up to life's deeper truths. And then it happened. I had this profound realization that so much of what I'd been chasing, like my career goals and the need to prove myself, was just an illusion. It felt like I'd stepped out of a noisy, chaotic room into a wide-open space with nothing but silence. At first, that silence felt liberating, like I'd finally escaped a trap. But then, something unexpected happened. That sacred silence turned into a kind of emptiness I didn't see coming. I stopped caring about the things that used to drive me, like getting that promotion, hitting the gym every day, or even keeping up with my social circle. It wasn't that I was depressed or giving up. It was more like a deep, sacred exhaustion had settled in. I felt hollow, but in a strange way, it was peaceful. Still, there was this nagging question that kept creeping in. Why do I feel so empty now that I've seen the truth? I mean, aren't we supposed to feel fired up after a spiritual awakening? Like we've unlocked the secret to life and now we're unstoppable? That's what all the books and gurus tell us, right? But for a lot of us, especially those who are sensitive, the empaths, the deep thinkers, this isn't the case. Instead of feeling motivated, we feel like someone hit the pause button on our lives. I remember talking to a friend of mine, Sarah, who's always been this brilliant, spiritually attuned person. She'd read all the greats, Eckhart Tolle, Krishnamurti, Alan Watts, and after going through her own dark night of the soul, she came out with this crystal clear insight. She told me she'd finally seen through the illusions of who she thought she was supposed to be. The perfect career woman, the people pleaser, the one always chasing external validation. But 2 months later, I found her in her apartment, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, completely adrift. She said to me, "I used to stress about not doing enough. Now, I don't care if I do anything at all. I thought waking up would light a fire in me, but instead, I feel like it put the fire out." That conversation stuck with me because it mirrored exactly what I was feeling. It's a paradox no one really warns you about. Spiritual awakening can leave you feeling unmotivated, even apathetic. But here's the thing. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who pioneered so much of modern psychology, had a lot to say about this exact experience. He called it a kind of sacred terrain, a space between the collapse of who you thought you were and the birth of who you're meant to be. Jung believed this wasn't a failure. It was a necessary part of becoming your true self, a process he called individuation. So, why does this happen and what does it mean? Let's dig into that next. When I say betrayal in this context, I'm not just talking about someone breaking your trust in the usual sense, like a friend lying to you or a partner cheating. I mean, the deeper betrayal you feel when the illusions you built your life around start to crumble. For me, that illusion was the belief that I had to keep striving, performing, and proving myself to feel worthy. When I woke up spiritually, I saw through that lie, but instead of feeling free, I felt betrayed by my own expectations, by the world's demands, by the version of myself I'd been trying to be. And that betrayal hurt more than I could have imagined. Carl Jung had a way of explaining why this kind of betrayal cuts so deep. He said it's because it touches the shadow, the parts of ourselves we buried, the fears and insecurities we don't want to face. When I realized my drive for success was rooted in a fear of being unworthy, it brought up all these emotions I'd been avoiding. The shame of not being enough, the anger at myself for buying into society's game, the fear that I'd never measure up. Jung would say that's why betrayal, whether it's from a person or from your own illusions, hurts so much. It forces you to confront your shadow, those hidden parts that are tied to your deepest vulnerabilities. But here's where Jung's insight gets really powerful. He didn't see this pain as a dead end. He saw it as a doorway, a necessary step in what he called individuation, the journey to become your true self. Jung wrote, "Enlightenment does not come by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That means real awakening isn't about feeling blissful all the time. It's about facing the darkness inside you. When I went through my awakening, it felt like everything I'd built my life on, my ambition, my need for approval, my 5-year plan, started to dissolve. It was like the script I'd been following my whole life got burned up, and I didn't have a new one to replace it. Jung called this phase the negrado, a term from alchemy that means the blackening stage. It's when the ego, the part of you that's driven by performance and external validation, gets dismantled. But the true self, what Jung called the self, hasn't fully taken over yet. So you're left in this in-between space, a kind of spiritual limbo. It's not laziness or apathy, even though it might look like that on the outside. It's a holy pause, a moment where your soul is rewriting the story of who you are. I felt this so clearly after my awakening. I didn't want to chase the same goals anymore, but I didn't know what I wanted instead. It was like I was floating, not lost, but not quite found either. What made this even harder was how our culture reacts to this stillness. In America and Europe, we're obsessed with productivity, always doing, achieving, moving forward. If you're not hustling, people think something's wrong with you. I felt that pressure too. Friends would ask, "Why aren't you working on that big project anymore?" Or, "Aren't you going to set new goals?" They thought I was slacking, but I wasn't. I was in the middle of a transformation, one that didn't look like progress to the outside world. Jung warned that modern society often mislabels this phase as regression or depression, but he saw it differently. He called it an initiation, a sacred descent into the unknown that's necessary for growth. So, what does this transformation lead to, and how do we navigate it? Let's explore that next. At first, I thought this lack of motivation meant I'd failed at my spiritual journey. I mean, shouldn't I be feeling more alive, more driven, now that I'd seen through the illusions of my old life? But Carl Jung helped me see that this stillness wasn't a failure. It was a sacred pause, a necessary part of becoming my true self. And once I started to embrace it, I discovered some incredible benefits that I never could have expected. Jung believed that when you go through a spiritual awakening, your old motivations, the ones tied to your ego, like wanting to impress others or prove your worth, start to dissolve. That's what happened to me. I used to be obsessed with climbing the career ladder, always pushing myself to be the best, to get that next promotion. But after my awakening, those goals felt hollow. I didn't care about being the star employee anymore. I didn't care about what people thought of me. At first, that scared me. I thought I'd lost my spark. But Jung would say that's exactly the point. When the ego's script burns up, you're left with a clean slate, a chance to discover what really matters to you. This process is what Jung called individuation, the journey to become your true self, fully integrated and whole. And one of the biggest benefits of embracing this sacred pause is the freedom it brings. When I stopped chasing external validation, I felt this incredible lightness. I wasn't running on adrenaline anymore, always trying to prove myself. Instead, I started to feel a quiet peace, like I was finally free to just be me. I remember one morning sitting on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about my to-do list or what I needed to achieve. I was just there, present, feeling this deep connection to myself. Jung would say that's what happens when you let go of the ego's demands. You start to live from your true self, what he called the self. And that brings a kind of peace that's hard to describe. Another amazing benefit I noticed was what Jung called synchronicity, those moments when the universe seems to align with your inner growth. As I embraced this stillness, I started to notice little signs that felt like they were meant for me. I'd run into old friends who shared my new perspective on life, or I'd stumble across opportunities that seemed to fit perfectly with where I was at. Like a local art class I'd always wanted to try but never had the time for. It was like the world was mirroring my inner transformation, showing me I was on the right path. I think of Santiago in The Alchemist, who faced betrayal and hardship but found that the universe always seemed to help him when he stayed true to his journey. That's what healing from betrayal can feel like. A journey where every step brings you closer to a life that feels meaningful and connected. For me, one of the most unexpected benefits was rediscovering a sense of joy that wasn't tied to achievement. I used to think joy came from hidden goals, like getting that promotion or running a marathon. But as I healed, I found joy in the simplest things. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since I was a kid, and I'd lose myself in the colors for hours. It wasn't about being good or showing off my work. It was about how alive it made me feel. Jung would say that's what healing does. It helps you reconnect with the things that truly light you up, the things that come from your soul, not your ego. Imagine what that could look like for you. What if healing from betrayal meant not just letting go of the pain, but finding a joy and peace you never thought possible? That's what Jung offers, a way to turn your hurt into a path of growth. But how do we actually do that? Let's get into some practical steps next. Now that we've seen how this sacred pause can lead to profound healing, let's talk about how to actually navigate it and move forward. Carl Jung's teachings give us some practical steps to heal from the betrayal of our old illusions, and I've found these steps to be a game changer in my own journey. They helped me go from feeling stuck in that empty stillness to finding a new sense of purpose, and I believe they can help you too. The first step Jung would encourage is to face your shadow, the hidden parts of yourself that this betrayal has brought up. For me, the betrayal wasn't just about my colleague taking credit for my work. It was about the illusions I'd built my life around, like the idea that I had to keep achieving to be worthy. Facing my shadow meant looking at the emotions I'd been avoiding, like the fear of being unworthy, the shame of not seeing the truth sooner, and the anger I felt toward myself for playing society's game. I started by journaling about these feelings, asking myself, what am I really feeling right now? And what is this betrayal showing me about myself? At first it was tough. Those emotions were raw, and I wanted to run from them. But as I wrote, I felt like I was finally being honest with myself. And that honesty was the first step toward healing. You can try this too. Take 10 minutes each day to journal about your emotions. Ask, what am I feeling? Or what fears or shame is this betrayal bringing up? Don't hold back, just let it all out. Jung believed that by facing your shadow, you start to understand your pain, and that understanding opens the door to healing. The next step is to embrace the stillness, which Jung saw as a crucial part of individuation, becoming your true self. This means letting yourself sit in that sacred pause without judging it or trying to rush through it. I used to feel guilty for not being productive, but I realized that this stillness was giving my soul space to breathe, to figure out what I really wanted. I started setting aside time each day to just be, whether it was sitting on my porch, taking a walk in the park, or meditating for a few minutes. I'd ask myself, what feels true to me right now? And let the answers come without forcing them. Sometimes I'd just sit and watch the clouds, letting my mind wander. You can try this too. Carve out a few minutes each day to sit quietly without distractions and ask, what does my soul need right now? Jung would say, this stillness is where your true self starts to emerge, guiding you toward a new kind of motivation. Another powerful practice is to look for small, soul-led actions, which Jung saw as a way to integrate your experiences into your journey of wholeness. This means doing one thing each day that feels true to you, even if it's small. For me, this meant picking up painting again. I'd spend 15 minutes a day with my brushes, not because I had to, but because it felt right. One day, I decided to share a painting with a friend, and their encouragement gave me a little spark of joy I hadn't felt in a while. You can start small too. Maybe it's listening to music that lifts your spirit, writing a poem, or taking a walk in nature. Jung believed that these small actions help you reconnect with your soul, building a new kind of motivation that's based on alignment, not performance. It's like Neo in the Matrix, taking small steps to break free from the old system, finding his true power along the way. These steps, facing your shadow, embracing the stillness, and taking soul-led actions, aren't always easy, but they're manageable. You don't need to have all the answers right away. Just take it one day at a time, and you'll start to feel a shift. Jung believed that every choice to heal is a step toward becoming your true self, fully aligned with your soul. So, what's one small step you can take today? Let's talk about how this journey unfolds in the final part. As I continued on this journey of healing, something incredible started to happen. That stillness I'd been sitting in, the sacred pause that felt so empty at first, began to transform. It wasn't a sudden burst of energy or a big aha moment. It was more like a quiet hum, a gentle pull that felt different from the old frantic motivation I used to have. Carl Jung called this the emergence of the self, the true core of who you are, and it's what guides you toward a new kind of motivation, one that's rooted in alignment, not performance. For me, this new motivation didn't look like the hustle I was used to. I wasn't waking up with a burning need to achieve or prove myself. Instead, I felt this soft nudge to create, to connect, to do things that felt true to me. I started painting more regularly, not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because it brought me joy. I'd share my work with friends, not for applause, but because it felt right to express myself. I also found myself saying no to things that didn't align with my values, like taking on extra work just to look good. Jung would say, This is what living from the self looks like. You stop chasing external validation and start responding to what feels real, what lights you up inside. It's not about ambition in the old sense, it's about devotion, a devotion to what's true for you. This shift changed everything for me. I used to feel this constant ache, like I was always betraying myself by trying to be someone I wasn't. But now, that ache is gone. I still have moments of doubt or tiredness. Life isn't perfect, but I don't feel that exhausting pressure to perform anymore. Instead, I feel a quiet conviction, a sense of alignment that keeps me going. Jung called this the symbolic life, where you live guided by your soul's whispers through dreams, gut instincts, even those little coincidences that feel like the universe is nudging you along. For me, it's meant asking different questions, not what should I do, but what feels true to me right now. Not how can I prove myself, but what brings me peace. If you're feeling that lack of motivation after your own spiritual awakening, I want you to know you're not broken. You're in the middle of a profound shift, a metamorphosis that's reshaping your entire inner world. The old fire might have burned out, but a new flame is starting to glow, one that's steady, one that won't flicker in life storms. Jung never promised this journey would be easy, but he did promise it would lead to depth, to a life where you're truly yourself, not a mask you wear for the world. I'd love to hear where you're at on this journey. Have you felt that stillness after awakening? That sacred pause where nothing seems to move? Or maybe you're starting to feel those quiet nudges from your soul, guiding you towards something new. Share your story in the comments. I'm reading every single one, and your words might just be the light someone else needs to keep going. If you know someone who's struggling with this, feeling lost after their own awakening, share this video with them. Sometimes, just knowing you're not alone can make all the difference. Before I go, I want to invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Here on this channel, we're diving deep into the hidden layers of the psyche, exploring how our unconscious shapes our lives and how we can grow through every challenge. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover, maybe a question or a struggle you're facing, drop it in the comments. This community is built on your voices, and I'm so grateful you're here. As you move forward, remember this: the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. That's the foundation, the home you'll always return to. And from that wholeness, everything real and true in your life will grow. Keep walking this path. You're not alone, and I'll see you in the next video.